Shayna, go ahead. Sweet.
All right. Good morning. How's everybody doing? We got Joe and Maggie Eterno on with us today out of Georgia, north of Atlanta. And we're super excited to chat with them and let you guys know what they've been up to. My name is Daryn Vucelik. I was with you guys last week while Caitlin's out. Super excited to be here with my friends. And I think we are live on Facebook. We're recording. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Joe and Maggie, you guys have been in our world for several months now. What, 6-7 months? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, officially. Yeah, we the first time we actually sat down and met with Andrew was a year ago at Mega Camp. So
yeah. Well, we love having you guys in our world. And just to give, I have to tell the story because Brett loves the story and Brett has told the story. One thing we love about the Eternos, and I think you guys will come to find this today through this interview, the Eternos are implementers. They don't just read about it and talk about it, they do it. They do the thing, as we say. And maybe they can tell us your story a little bit later about a kind of a life change that you made, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But to get started, why don't you share with everyone, give us the 3-minute rundown, your background, the business that you guys are in, and how long you've been doing it.
yeah, background, previous career was in law enforcement. I was a police officer for 6 years. I've been in real estate now going on my 9th year, and I've had a team for 7 of those years. I've been working on it. We have our sales team. We also have started and really gotten official as far as strategic with our investment business. Have been investing and flipping for, the last, 4 or 5 years here and in South Carolina, which is how we actually met you, Daryn, was in Hilton Head.
Right.
But yeah, so that's pretty much our business in a nutshell.
And what was your production last year on the retail real estate side?
Yeah, the last 2 years, we actually, our gross commission was just over $1 million both years, like literally squeaking over the top, like $1,017,000, $1,016,000 the last 2 years. And that was entailed about 89 transactions last year, and it was about 115 the year before that.
Okay, and what is your goal and what are you on track to do this year?
So our goal this year is to get to 1.5 million in GCI. Currently with what we've had closed and pending, we're already right at 900,000, which is awesome for us because we're ahead of schedule. We're up in units as well. And so that, that's definitely pushing us to what our goal is by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I know you just mentioned this a second ago. You've added now wholesaling and investment division. I know you guys have done flips in the past. Tell me a little bit about that business. What does that look like?
Well, that one is, since coming in and learning and being a part of the Be Wealthy, we have gotten very strategic with that. It used to look like just, hey, we have a flip, let's do a flip, or here we have a contract, let's do something with it. But we've actually, officially started that side of the business and started lead generating around that with some online leads. And I have a partner in that we partnered together in investments prior to this, because started as a sales agent on my team, but now he's me and him are partners on it, and he's pretty much running that, full speed ahead. So we've actually seen great growth in that this year as well, implementing a lot of the wholesale side of it, which was kind of new to us, but we've still been flipping and adding in wholesales.
Awesome. Well, I hope that gives everyone a picture of kind of the big business that you're running, and we've seen your business really grow in leaps and bounds, especially in terms of profitability, both of those businesses. And that's exactly why you're on this call, because you guys are crushing it. So I want to ask each of you, what are the 3 things that you would say have contributed the most to your success?
You start. It's funny because we talked about that beforehand, and I think I can actually answer for both of us because we both have the same thing, because me and her, like we are in this together. But we really got there's three pillars that we really focused on, which was clarity, culture, and purpose.
And purpose as far as like being purposeful, like being purposeful with what our, continue.
Exactly. So those things, but number one, I mean, I could honestly say clarity, and clarity. Kind of like location.
Yeah.
But for us, when we really got clear on what we wanted to build and got linked up with Andrew and Be Wealthy, like, which was, hey, this is what we want to build, but we want to do it over here on the other side of the country. And for us, it was just really easy to say, look, they're doing it at a high level. So here, this is what's working. Let's run with it. So for us, clarity was massive.
And clarity too, on where we're going and who we're partnered with. And the clarity on where we're going allowed us to realize that it would be better to hook onto a bigger world, but also clarity financially, clarity in our numbers. Like, we're more in our business. The last almost 2 years, we've been more in the business than we ever have. And I think that when we hired our first coach, Gabby, which she's still coaching for us last year, I think we got very clear on just the business. And I remember her telling me, like, we're going to work in your business this year. And so I think that was a huge reason of why we've seen the success. It's been the hockey stick, like we've been working in it, and we are slowly seeing that basically that side of the hockey stick. But,
And then, as far as for our culture, we last year kind of made a decision like, hey, are we going to be small and mighty, or are we going to actually grow a retail sales team? And I think for us, when we decided, hey, we're actually going to do this, and I say I've had a team for 7 years, which is ironic, right? But I put myself in the same category as a lot of people that start teams, which is, hey, are you an agent? You're going to come work with me. I'll give you some leads, but like, hey, just go do. So for us, when we actually implemented our accountability and our one-on-one coaching and and our culture, as far as like, hey, we're all working, we're holding each other accountable. We, like, honestly, we have, I think now 14 agents. We just hired one last week, but literally none of them were on our team a year ago. So it's completely different, right? Except for us and my business partner and our admin that's been with us for almost 7 years. But that's been massive for us.
That's huge. And I want to lean into that for 1 second. So you had this thought process around, like, do we stay small and mighty, or do we get intentional and blow up the business? Because I think we have a mastermind member, Spring, who is wonderful, and she shared her quote is, your income opportunity is directly proportional to the number of agents on your team, right? At the end of the day, it really is. You decide what your cap is. So what was the shift for you in that thinking? What made you decide to make that leap to grow big and mighty as opposed to small and mighty?
I think a little bit of that as well, because we knew, eventually, if Joe wants, our goal is to get him out of production. He's still in production, very in production. And so we knew that if he was ever going to come out of production, and if we thought about it too, and we were like, our business can be passive income for the future. Our business could be opportunities for our kids if they want to be in real estate. Like, why just think of being small and just running until we can't anymore, and then just nothing coming from it, or actually putting some thought and work and time into it, building something that in the future is still going to give us some kind of passive income. And then I think too, like, we love to help others. And so we knew that we didn't want to be small and mighty, because we love helping other people, and we love people, and we love being with people. And so we both knew, we're like, we have to build a team, because that's the way that we build our world bigger, to allow other people to build worlds that are also big, in our world. So I think that was a huge one too.
And it's also for us, it was a big mind shift of like, hey, do I want a job or do I want a business? So for me, I mean, I still very much have a job. And we're, again, that's the thing, is like, we're super clear on where we are right now. But we also know that, like, you know, we have the systems and the tools to be able to start to create and make this a business that, you know, that can allow for other people to plug in and become successful. So I think that was just the two options for us, right?
Yeah. I love that. And I love that it comes back to one of your pillars there of clarity, right? And I think for a lot of us, even if we have clarity of where we're going, we also need clarity of where we're at. Like there's 2 points we need to plot on the map, right? Where we're going and where we start. And then we can figure out how to get there. So that said, you guys have been in business for quite some time. You, I know, have had some massive shifts throughout the way. You've had little shifts that have made big impacts. But how has a failure in your world, or maybe an apparent failure, set you up for success? Do you have a favorite failure where you failed forward, learned from it?
Yeah, well, I have plenty. But I think for us, for me, really specifically, if you go back a lot further, right before real estate, you know, coming out of the law enforcement career, you know, because we're on this wealth building journey, which I know most people are that are involved in this, that, you know, we're like to build big lives, to build our wealth. But, you know, where we started and where we really said, you know, our stake in the ground was where we were at the bottom of that, right? You know, coming off of, I mean, I remember as a police officer, I mean, $836 every 2 weeks, right? Like we were just struggling. I mean, I was working as many jobs as I could we had babies at the time just to keep them there. So like, you know, 10 years ago, I mean, I couldn't, you know, rub 2 nickels together or make it work, you know? So I think for us is that just that bottom point, which again, it's not a failure in terms of choices. Like, I mean, we did our best, but I look at that as kind of like, for me, a bottom point of like, hey, I need to make changes, right? To actually improve the direction I want to go. So that led to me taking my first leap and working for myself. So I think it's a favorite for me because I make decisions based off of that. I don't forget what that feels like. And we continue to build off of, you know, our past experiences.
Yeah. And I think that like that failing of, and neither of us are great parents, but never really taught us about money. You know, as far as at my house, money was always tight at my house, and it was always directly related to my dad's like state of what he felt like that day. You know, I knew if he was in a bad mood, it was because bills were due. And so money to me was always very negative. And so when we found ourselves like in that hole, like it was almost like, oh, well, here goes history repeating itself. But I think that, and his dad was the same, like his dad, you know, didn't know how to really handle his money as either. And so we both knew like, well, it doesn't have to be the same. And so we think that, you know, we still remember like the house that we rented in our small town. And we talk about that house all the time because there's the house on Jasmine Drive. And we're like, we grew up in that house. Like that's the house where he got his license in real estate. That's the house where we decided that we were going to build a different future for ourselves and for the generations of our children and like their children. And so, yeah, so like that failure of a moment has really just propelled us forward, but it's also reminded us constantly, like, don't live above your means, because we were living for a long time above our means, trying to just chase the American dream. And so I think it's kept us very steady, just reminding us to always be mindful of where we are, you know?
Yeah. Comes back to clarity. Yeah. You guys are tying it all together. I love that. So I love that you're so excited to share that failure, right? That learning point. I love that about you guys. But you've made a lot of good choices too, especially, you know, in the last couple of years. So I'm curious, what has been one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? And this can be an investment of time, of money, of your energy. What are some of the best investments you've made?
I'm a huge proponent, and I mean we've had some great ones, right? Some good wins on the flips, and you know, just closed out our biggest one a couple of months ago. But those are great. But I think for me, our biggest, it's a constant investment, is our investment in our circle, right? Like, who are we spending our time with? So coaching is one of our biggest line items. You know, through Matt's coaching, as well as with Be Wealthy, and well as the mastermind. I mean, that is that's our investment. And I can just tell you from the time that we got really specific with like, hey, this is a non-negotiable, we'll cut something else before we cut this. That's what continues to pay for itself. So, and I don't even know if I'll ever be able to quantify exactly what that ROI is. However, I do know that that's, you know, for us, our best choice and best investment.
That's awesome. I love that. So throughout that coaching, I feel like you guys have become very, very disciplined. I see it. I love to follow Maggie's, my favorite Instagram influencer. I love your daily routines and your habits. So what is a habit? And I love, and this is a fun question because we did this just with Kobe Socha the other day, and Kobe has some fun ones, but what's maybe an unusual habit that you love that you think contributes to your success?
Mine's waking up at 4 a.m. That is very unusual. People think I'm crazy. I always get asked, what time do you go to bed? But I just, I mean, if I'm not up at 4 a.m. and I allow myself to sleep in, I mean, he can tell you, it completely throws my day off. But my time from that 4 to 5:30, I just, you know, I drink my coffee, I drink water because you're dehydrated from the night before. But I journal. I always try to kind of think of things I'm thankful for. And then always I just write my prayers in there all the time. I normally do some kind of quiet time with my Bible or Bible study that I'm doing. And then in the summertime, I can add in my business book reading during that time. But now that the kids are back at school, I have to do that during working hours. Yeah. But yeah, so for me, just that morning routine, that morning time of waking up and basically setting the tone for my day. Like it just sets the tone. And I think that it's so powerful too. Like I read The Miracle Morning, and I did so much of it already, but reading like the testimonies of people who said, I just started getting up just a little bit earlier every day, and I started to be really purposeful about my time. Just the way it just changes your mindset. It's like a high, you know, like you're up and you're going and you're moving, you know. I've already done life by the time everybody else is waking up, you know. So
I love it. Yeah. How about you, Joe?
Yeah. So that's what I thought about too. I do my best. I do not get up at 4 a.m. I try.
Okay.
She pushes. That's not my thing. I think my quirky thing would tie back into real estate, which I have a couple of markets, right, that I watch. And I honestly check probably 5 to 6 times a day, like new listings. It's just weird. I've always done it, but my screen time on real estate apps are massively high. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be like, that's what I was trying to think of. I was like, but I think it's neat because it does lead me to knowing like my areas, like those are the ones I want to know. Those are the ones I want to be on top of. And it's, you know, definitely yielded some great results for us. So
I love that. No, those are both great. And is it usually the markets you're investing in or where you're selling, or both?
Both. Yeah, both. Like, I mean, 29928, which is Hilton Head. I don't even live there, but I look at it 5 or 6 times a day. I'm always looking for the next opportunity. Yeah, I'm always looking for the next. I mean, I talked to you about it the other day. I'm like, I need something. I got to find something. And in the areas the specific counties that I service or that I'm close to, it's a lot. I check it. You know, if it's new, I know it's new. So
I feel like that's so much better than the obsessive Instagram scrolling that I do. So that's good. I think that's
great. Yeah, well, I mean, I like to TikTok. I got a 14-year-old. I don't actually TikTok, but I talk to my 14-year-old daughter with TikToks
through TikTok.
So,
parenting, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So okay, I want to come back to one thing that we just talked about a minute ago. You said you've brought on 14 new agents in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. All new. None of them were on your team 12 months ago.
Correct.
I want to know, what advice would you give a smart, driven agent or investor who was ready to enter the real world? What advice would you give them? And what advice would you tell them to ignore?
Oh man. And we're talking investor, right? Or agent?
Investor or agent? Agent or investor.
Okay. Well, I can do both. I would say on the investor side, because we do help our agents like invest and grow as well. And I always tell them, like, they're like, where do you start? Where do you start? I'm like, you have, number one, it's clarity, right? That word I keep coming back to, know where you are, right? We give them their personal financial statement, fill this out. I don't care if it's negative, whatever, or positive, just know where you are. So that for me is like, you have to know where you are before you know where you're going in investing. Realtor wise, and just get tied into somebody that's done it. And that's why I think for us, like, being a team and having a team, I see a lot of people chase a lot of different things. So I think for a real estate agent, just being tied in with the right people, the way you want to do business. But I think the flip side of that is my negative advice is don't chase all the shiny objects. Because I see a lot of agents that do it. They're like, well, I'm going to, social media, but then I'm also going to be at events, and then I'm going to hold open houses, and they just chase all these things and they never do one thing well. And it leads to diminished results or no results. So I think that was for me, like when I started, I was like, just very specific. I'm just going to call my people, like past business, whatever it is. I'm just going to love on my people and be really good at the relational side. And that's what I picked. So.
Yeah. And I think just as an agent, like having the discipline, knowing like, and especially in this market, you have to treat it like, it is a full-time job right now. And so I think when you come in brand new, surrounding yourself with the right kind of people, either whether that be a team, whether that be a mastermind, just being around people that know what they're talking about, that can coach you and help you. That's why I say a team, because you can almost get that, along with being on a team versus having to like pay for your own coach or anything like that. But I think, like Joe said, being clear on at least 3 pillars of lead generation and whatever that may be. And, like with our team, we encourage them. We have a lot of new people who don't have a sphere because they've either moved out of state or they're really, really young and their sphere's not buying right now. So we tell them, we're like, go meet new people, insert yourself in places where you know nobody, and start to build those relationships organically, not salesy, but very organically. And so, like I was telling them today, I got a referral from a friend who I was in a Bible study with last year. And so I never once did I think, I'm going to join this Bible study to get leads, but it almost always happens. Like just with the way, Joe and I did CrossFit for 7-8 years. And that was one of our biggest lead generating. We did so many business just from people that knew us from there. And so like, just be present where you are and choose circles of people that you don't know, but like get to know them, friend them on Facebook. They're going to ask you how's the market and all of that. So I think, and that's kind of right now with this market anyways, we're really pushing our agents to do that. Like create your own sphere. Like don't wait on the sphere to be created around you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you guys do have such clarity around, you've built a sphere-based business. It's super relational, and you've made that systematized, because I find that sometimes in talking to teams or agents, they lean so much into like, well, I'm building relationships. I can't put them in a database, or I'm not going to, get intentional around that because that makes it salesy or that makes it weird. Can you guys speak to that? Because I know that you are intentional about those relationships, and they're real relationships. It's not like you're not calling up people every day to be like, do you want to sell me your house? So what does that look like for you, getting intentional about us?
It's just being very genuine with my people. Like, I just had a guy the other day that, that we listed his house, or I put him under contract on a buy, listed his house. And he even very clearly said it to me. He's like, I got family, I've got other people, agents that I don't ever hear from. And then they call me mad because I'm using somebody else. But then I tell him, and he even said it, he's like, you actually check on me. You tell me happy birthday. We sent him, I think, not a get well, but he had a family member pass away, and I checked on him. Just little stuff like that, like no business intentions whatsoever, but just like a genuine, hey, I see this on social media, and I'm not the one that posts. She's the one that posts, but I watch. Yeah. So constantly know what's going on with my people, and just leading from that point. And that's just led, over the years, just to, most of my appointments are, hey, come and list me, or hey, come and help me buy, without actually having to earn their business. I've already earned their business.
Yeah, and I think we're very careful about being too salesy. And so we just try to be genuine about what we do. Like school started out here. And so we kind of figured who are all the teachers we've helped really ever. And we sent them all like $25 gift cards, Amazon. And so the amount of people that have texted us and thanked us or tagged us on social media, things like that, like it's just big, and you do it genuinely. Like we truly do appreciate them, and a lot of them have given us a lot of referrals. But I think too, like not getting, like, even though they don't post on social media like a thank you or anything like that, they're still going to give people your name around you. So like don't get caught up on like, well, they didn't post it. Like don't do it for the public fame, because then you're being salesy. Like really love on people and form these relationships in a genuine way, because they're going to sniff it out. And so so we're purposeful with that. We send our people an email every other week. We spotlight a business in the area, so our business owners love us, and so they really appreciate us doing that for them. And then we do big giveaways or big events every quarter. So
love it. So, and you guys have, I know, again, a big sphere. Everyone in your team has spheres. I think for some people who maybe are, if we're talking disc profile, if you're not a high I, that might sound overwhelming, right? So it sounds like that's a lot of relationships to maintain. But I know that great business owners oftentimes are not even naturally high I's. There's usually a lot of D, a driver, a lot of, sometimes C, they're detail oriented. But when you guys are feeling maybe overwhelmed or unfocused, or if you've temporarily lost focus in your business, what do you do? What do you ask yourself, or what do you do to get back to that place of clarity and focus?
Well, thankful for me. I mean, I always say we have an unfair advantage because I do have Maggie and we're completely different, right? I'm the one that gets unfocused. And I always joke that like in our business, I'm the one that's like knocking over the hurdles in the hurdle race, and she's the one that's coming behind and picking them back up. But I think it's just keeping each other accountable. And I know that sounds goofy for a husband and wife team, but like our Monday morning drive to the office is our one-on-ones. Like she pulls up our list. I mean, we're keeping each other accountable on our tasks that we said we were going to do last week. It's just like anything else. Yeah, we get lost, but if we're keeping that in front of us constantly, the odds of us getting off track go down significantly. But I think it's just, like I said, for us, it's just keeping each other in check.
yeah, I think for me too, like I do get very overwhelmed. And so, especially being a mom of 3 teenagers who all play sports and have things going on at all times, what I do, and I actually just did it the other day because I did feel a little overwhelmed, but I take a piece of notebook paper and everything that's in my brain, I just write it down and basically make a giant list of like vomit whatever is going on and is making me feel that like overwhelmness. And so it was funny because it almost always happens, like the things that are there, like they're things that I can move to next week. Like a lot of the times the things that are overwhelming me are sometimes the things that aren't like necessary to do right then. And then there's things that it's like when there's a fire, like I'm not a firefighter, I can't put it out. So why am I, so those are the things that I'm like, well, I can't do anything about this. And so that's what I did. And I normally go down the list and say, okay, when does this have to get done? And then kind of just set out a plan like from there, and I think normally when I'm overwhelmed is because I've skipped out on my daily kind of just check in, even with myself. Every morning I write my calendar out. I look at my calendar on my phone, look at my paper calendar, and then I just write all of my to-dos for the day. Either I try to do that the night before, but
I love it. So it's finding someone to hold you accountable, right? Having those. And I love that you guys have check-ins with high frequency, right? I think that's a huge part of it. And Maggie, I am a huge believer in I'll call it the oh crap notebook, that like just to get things out of your head and onto a piece of paper sometimes is, removes a lot of anxiety or stress. So that's awesome. I love this question for you guys in particular, because I know you're big readers, you're committed to the curriculum, as I say. We've got a lot of books flying around here. Like there's always a new book being recommended. But what is the book or books that you guys recommend most? And then what book has had the greatest impact on you in the last 12 months?
I mean, for me, I think the bank, I know I speak for a lot of people, but the Banker's Code was massive. And even as funny as it sounds, I even told her the other day, she hasn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
I'm almost done.
Yeah.
I'm reading it now.
I think just like, I'm like, you know, for me, that's like, when you want to invest or you want to learn to think different, like just start there. That's the best explanation. But the banker's code for me, just unpacking that and really starting to execute some of those practices and some notes that we've created, has just been massive. Because when I realized, like, it's so much nicer to get interest than it is to be the landlord, like, just, you know, it's a mental shift for me. So
I think for me, there was a book, actually Audible. It's 6 Habits of Growth. That one was a big one for me. I really like, it just reminded me of the habits. You probably know by now, I'm very much routine girl. I like my habits. And so it just reminds you of those habits that it takes in order to be successful in your day. But then, I think one of the ones, it's funny because it's like a great book. I don't love the book, but it was a very much a life-changing book for me this year, was Stop Acting Rich. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, you can read a chapter of that and pretty much know, like, get a gist of what it's saying and what it's talking about. But, to get into like the big thing that we did this year,
Story. Yeah.
Yes. So we had bought a 20-acre old farmhouse on an old farm, had put in a brand new pool. It was completely remodeled. It's beautiful. Our dream home, it was going to be the home that we were going to retire in and stay in. And so, about last July, and we had just moved in. So, in October, and then in July, we went to our first KW Wealth workshop, and we left there, and I was like, yes, we have a plan, like, because we knew, we were already investors, we were already investing, but we just felt like we had a plan for the future and a plan for getting to that financial freedom, space. And I come back excited, and Joe's like in a bad mood, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, I figured, okay, blah, blah, blah. And so for several months, it just was this weird tension. And so finally he came out. I think he had gone to one of the masterminds. I didn't get to go to that one. And he comes back and he's like, we need to sell our house. And I'm like, you are nuts. Like, we've been here for a year. Like, you're crazy. Like, why? And he just kept saying, like, I feel like we can get to where we want to be so much quicker. I feel like this house is just kind of an anchor. And so for months, he just like at me constantly, like, I think we need to. And so it was funny because I finally, like in January, was like, okay, fine. I'll pray about it. I'll think about it. Like, just leave me alone. Like, I'll think about it, Yeah. And so that was the mastermind where we had to read Stop Acting Rich. And so it talked about very specifically in there, almost like at the very beginning, about how a lot of times our homes are our biggest anchor for building wealth. And it was kind of like, okay, I gotcha. And so the more and more I read, the more I just realized, like, okay, I think he's right. And then we went to the mastermind, and Gary Keller kind of shared about how he kept his lifestyle low for so long before his passive income could truly pay for like what he has now, And so he talked about that. Brett talked about it. Everybody was talking about it. And I was like, okay, I get it. Like, and so I think our biggest thing was, Joe said, we have the savings to survive the market. If we don't sell another home, like, we'll be fine. But do you want to waste that entire savings on this property? Like, if something were to happen, And so it just, again, clarity where we were going, what we were doing. And I finally just said, okay, well, show me the numbers, show me the spreadsheet. What will this do if this happens? And so when he showed me and we truly talked about it and had that clarity of where we were going, like, it made sense. And so we sold our house, got full price offer, and so bought something in a new neighborhood. And so, it is not nothing, like, we say we downsized, but it's still a beautiful
it's a good
home.
house. It's not
It's
the
not
land.
all the land and all that, which is fine. Because even, with and Rich Dad Poor Dad, like, you'll read, the bigger the house, the bigger the expenses, the higher the expenses. Like, just because, don't just calculate what your mortgage is going to be with a bigger house, calculate how much electricity is going to be. Then we put a pool in and our electric, like our bill went up super high, then it was taking care of the 20 acres and, things like that. So like, you have to really know the math of like what it's going to take to live there and is it worth it? And so we decided to size down and we went into a new neighborhood, and I think our living expenses went down.
Yeah, we cut our living expenses by almost 65%, just our personal
expenses. And so we knew, we're like, if we do this, then number one, who cares what the market does, because we're set up to be okay. I mean, and our kids, they go to private school, so we had all those other expenses, keep them in private school. And so we cut our living expenses, and it's funny because we call it the gift that keeps on giving, because when we were under contract, we were going back and forth about selling the farm. And so at one point we did call the agent and we were like, you know what, if someone else needs the house, like we'll cancel the contract. And the CEO called Joe and was like, no, don't cancel the contract. So then later, once we closed, we talked to the builder, and we noticed like houses weren't moving very quick in that area. And that area is very popular. Like it's got one of the top schools in the state. People want to move in. But then we kind of started seeing like it wasn't on the MLS for that area. And like just did little things that we were like, we could really just help, And so Joe had the CEO's number because he had called Joe, a couple weeks after or before that. And so he just called him and said, look, I live in the neighborhood, who I am. I really think that we could help you. There's a big mess. And he was just very honest because he was like, I'm just gonna call him, And so he called the CEO, he got us in with his leadership team. And so they allowed us to take over the neighborhood with potentially 76 lots. So, which is pretty awesome. Range in houses was about 700,000. So, I mean, good prices. And so, so it's been really neat to go in there and they're paying for all of our marketing, and we're going in together. They're paying for it, but we're going to be also marketed with them in the local schools. And even crazier, Joe went to go pay for that, or hand them the check that they gave Joe to pay for it, and already got a buy and sell referral from the lady at the front desk. So it's just like, it was crazy. I'm like, selling the farm is the gift that keeps on giving. That's what we're calling it. Because it just, but it's all about choices. When you make the right choices, the right things happen. It moves you forward. Like it's just that,
compound
effect. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, to sum it up there, you reduced your lifestyle expenses by 65%. Like that is a huge number, and not something I think that is easy to do. That requires intentionality. And I love that, I love that you admit, Maggie, it wasn't like you guys were just like, oh, we read the book and we were immediately like, sell the dream house that we just put the pool in, right? I know you said this in Atlanta last week. You never swam in the pool.
No, I didn't want to. I wasn't going to get in it. It was really nice. I don't even like seeing pictures of it, but I'll get another one day.
Yeah,
absolutely. Good. The next one will be even greater, but I love that it comes back again to your clarity of where you were headed in the long term, and you guys are going to get there so much faster. And what was your return? Because in the time that you bought it, how much equity did you gain from purchase to sale of?
Well, I mean, the good news is so there's twofold, right? And everybody knows, like, we were under the cap gains time frame. So we managed to get all of the cash and the money that I had put in it back and a little bit more. So the return was, nominal, but the return is what we're getting on the back end.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. So I know that you guys are investment focused. Clearly, I know you've allocated a lot of your profits from your retail team into your investment side. And I think that we've talked about investing as far as I love that coaching is a big line item for you guys, investing in your people. What are the top 3 personal investments that you've made recently, hard asset investments you've made that have had the greatest impact?
So, I mean, for us, number one is our flipping business. We continue to invest there. We just flipped some duplexes that I bought. I mean, we netted just over 170,000 on it. So that was a great one. But our whole life policy that I really have learned that got up to speed, bought that. We're utilizing that for lending. So just understanding the compounding effect of, receiving interest on both sides of those. This is not intentional in terms of a salesy pitch, but like our investment into Be Wealthy, as far as like merging our team with the expansion, has just it's paid off massively for us. I mean, it's allowed us to reach where we want to get to quickly. And then I'm trying to think of a third one.
Hard assets.
Yeah.
If those are two good ones.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are two good ones.
Yeah.
Are great.
Pretty straightforward for us.
Now I'll throw you a trick question here. What is a purchase of less than $100 that you've invested? So something you bought for less than $100 that has most positively impacted your life in the last year or so.
I don't know. I know this sounds goofy, and they're just over $100.
Okay,
But I
we'll
just
take
bought
it.
these
Okay.
headphones. It's a shameless plug. They're Shocks, but I hate wearing AirPods, and they destroy my ears. And these sit outside your ears, so they don't even go in them. So right now, a little over 100, but I don't like taking them off. I know that sounds goofy,
We'll
but
give
for me,
everyone the link. Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Did you get an Amazon like referral or something?
No, I don't think I'm into that, but I wish there was more. I wish there was
That's
more
so
stuff I
funny.
spent under $100 on, but
Yeah.
How about you, Megan?
I think for me, it's my books I read. Of course, they
Yeah.
accumulate to more than $100, but at the time of purchase, it's only, a couple $100 here and there. But I really do feel like you are what you read, and the more you read, the more you know, the more you learn, the more confident you get. And so for me, I read a lot of books on leadership because I am now leading a team. And so I read on that. I read on daily habits, routines, just because I feel like that's a huge, huge proponent of success for people. So for me, I think that would be just.
I apologize that she sounds much more deeper than me. So, but
We've got sales and we've got operations, and they're two different lanes. And you guys, that is awesome. I actually want to touch a little bit deeper on that, Maggie, and talking about habits. And again, you guys clearly have your routines. How do you make sure that your team is functioning at the same level and that they're all executing on their routines in the same way that you two are?
So for, we teach it. And so on Mondays, we normally have training. I'm a big person of like, don't call a meeting if it's not necessary. Right. And so meeting with them weekly is necessary because it's good for your team. It's good for you to see each other, but I don't want them to leave without something of value. So every week we have something different, but almost once a month we do touch on just the importance of routines. Last week we touched on the 7 habits. It was a video we watched on the 7 habits of successful real estate agents. And I had them send me their time block schedule. And so they sent it all to me. And I know that they do that with our DOS. They show them their time block schedule. And I think just talking about it, also reading together, it helps. We do the ERG book club. We did the Happiness Advantage at the beginning of this year, and then we'll do another one at the beginning of next year. And then a couple of us read The Wealthy Gardener, which was a good one. So I think that talking about it, showing them, because I think that's a big thing, is like, don't just talk about it, you got to be about it. So you have to show them that you're doing the thing and they're going to follow as well. So I think that's a big one. And then when I do my one-on-ones with my agents, we do talk about, what are you doing in the day? What does your schedule look like? Things like that.
So you guys are doing weekly one-on-one accountability meetings. I love the book club idea, like having everyone read together. That's really fun. And then the book reports to make sure that, we're actually on the same page with takeaways. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is my last question, and then we'll open it up for questions from the chat, from people on Facebook or watching. If Joe and Maggie Eterno have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, like metaphorically speaking, you're getting a message out to millions or billions of people, what would it say and why? And it can be like a few words, it can be a paragraph, and it can be someone else's quote if you prefer. But what would you put on a billboard?
You know, I had a great one last night when I was reviewing the questions and I realized I forgot what it was. I was like, I had a great one and I didn't write it down. That's my problem. What would you write on the big billboard?
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds goofy, but just going back to what we were just talking about earlier, like, you know, you want to tell people what you're about. I mean, I would just clarity period, culture period, purpose period, just wrap it up. I love it because I mean, for me, it's three very descriptive words that kind of break it down to what we're trying to build.
I love it.
I think too, I always love telling my people, like, you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. You know, Gary Keller said that, and I'll never forget in that house on Jasmine Drive, I was telling you guys about. Joe came home one day and he was like, we could be anywhere we want to be in 5 years. He's like, Gary Keller said that, and I'm going to believe it. And we say that all the time because, and we've lived it. It's true. We're much further than we even thought we would be at the end of every 5-year increments. But when you stop looking right in front of you and you allow yourself that time of like, you know, we met an agent last week. He came and spent the day with us and he was telling us about some amazing investments that he was doing. But he's also a lot older than us. And so I had to remind myself, like, okay, I'm only almost 40. I'm only almost 40. Like, he's, you know, 20 years ahead of me. And so being very mindful of, like, we have time, but also knowing where you're going and knowing that it's okay, that it's going to take you possibly 5 years or less. Just being patient with the process, you know. What did Gary Keller say? That he's become okay with the amount of times that it takes to, or amount of time that it takes to get to where you're going, or whatever. I can't remember. I butchered that, but
yeah, again, maybe a botched quote, but he said, I've come to terms with the time and process it takes to achieve things.
yes.
Okay.
I've made peace with the process it takes to be successful.
There you go.
There we go. Locked in. I think it is true that we all overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year and underestimate what we can accomplish in 5. And I think you guys are a testament to sticking to the process, having a clear path, right? And I love that you said, Maggie, too, like, when you make the right decision, there's domino effect, right? You made a hard decision and there were so many good things that came afterwards because it put you in the path of success, which is exactly what you coach your agents to do, right? Go make one good decision, go join a new group, go meet some new people, and good things are going to follow. So
yeah, gotta be in the way, right?
You gotta be in the way for good things to happen. Yep.
I love that. I love it. So do we have any questions for Joe and Maggie? We have like 10-ish minutes left. If anybody's in the chat, we'd love to hear from you guys. And while we're waiting for questions, I'll ask you guys, what are you most looking forward to in this year coming up, investment wise, event wise? What are y'all looking forward to?
Man, I'm always excited about golf trips. I don't have any personal ones, but my son qualified for a national championship with the tour that he's on. And so we get to go to Orlando in December, and then we're going to go to New York in December to celebrate my daughter's 13th birthday. That was what she requested. So those are exciting things.
Yeah.
I love taking the kids new places. So
I love that. I love that you have a wealth plan that funds it all and makes it really do that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Anne just popped in the chat. Anne Morton. Hi, Anne. How are you?
Hi, how are you guys doing? Hey, this has been a great call. So my question for them, as I was listening to you say the best thing you did was get on board with the expansion with Be Wealthy. I would love to know, could I just call you and chat about that a little bit? I'm a solo agent struggling for time, also in KW Wealth, and trying to build my investment side, but I feel like I'm sinking, you know, because I lost an assistant. I'm doing high volume for a solo agent, and I'm just basically not sleeping. And I get up at 4 a.m. too, but it's really to stay caught up or try to play catch up, you know. But I've looked at different things and I didn't even understand, like, I'm so busy. I'm sure it's been talked about. I didn't even know they had an expansion team. And I talked to a friend of mine in North Carolina. Actually, I think he's out there now talking to someone at Be Wealthy, but he was like, why don't you consider this? Because he and I are kind of in the same place. And before I even knew they had that, I'd heard about Livian. So I was going to talk to them, and I'm like, well, I'm Be Wealthy and I love Brett Tanner. So if you guys don't mind, if you'd be open to it, I'd love to just jump on a 10-minute call with you.
For sure. Yeah, I think Daryn just put it in the chat, my cell phone number. So it
Okay,
just popped
perfect.
up. So yeah, you call anytime or just shoot me a text and we'll work on getting something
we'll
on the
plan a date.
calendar.
And I jumped on here late. So where are you guys from?
Georgia, like the metro
Georgia.
Atlanta, North Georgia.
Okay. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, so we're not far.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was at the event when you were talking about when you shared the story about your home. So that was good stuff. I was very inspired.
Awesome.
So thanks for sharing that. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks,
I'm
Ann.
gonna find this number.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I do think that's a great note to land on, because again, as people who are relationship builders, I know that you're willing to chat with anybody on this call, anybody listening, whether it's about if you want to buy or sell in North Atlanta, please call Joe Eterno and chat. So anybody who has questions, I put their contact info in the chat. I know you guys have been so helpful with lots of people in our world, or people just who have questions about investing, changing lifestyles, getting their, retail team in shape. So thank you guys for always being great resources.
Yeah.
Last call for questions. Any other questions before we wrap it up today? Going once, going twice. I don't see anyone else in the chat. So thank you so much, Joe and Maggie, for being here. You guys are awesome. We're so fortunate to be in business with you. And I'm excited to see you in Austin next week. Anybody headed to Keller Williams Mega Camp, we'll see you there.
All right. Sounds
Bye,
good.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thanks.